والله يدعو إلى دار السلام ويهدي من يشاء إلى صراط مستقيم.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين، صلى الله وسلم وبارك على المبعوث رحمة للعالمين نبينا وسيدنا وشفيعنا وحبيبنا محمد صلى الله عليه وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and welcome to this new episode of Mercy to the Worlds, sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam. Abu Sufyan met the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam, and he tried to convince him to prolong and renew the agreement again. And the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam did not give him a straight answer. He went to Abu Bakr and tried to convince Abu Bakr to talk to the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. But again, Abu Bakr could not give him any reply. He went to Umar. He went to Ali. And Ali told him something that was soft. And when he went back to his people and asked him what happened, when he told them, they told him he was playing with you. He didn't give you an answer. So what are you happy for? He did not give you any answer, straight answer for prolonging the agreement. The Prophet ﷺ supplicated to Allah that all the spies, all the eyes observing and monitoring the route, that they would not see him coming, so that his attack to Mecca would be a surprise, complete surprise. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the Almighty, answered his prayer. The Prophet ﷺ ordered his companions to mobilize. And within hours, an army of 10,000 people were ready to go wherever the Prophet ﷺ instructed them to go. These people were from Medina. They were from also the tribes who reverted and accepted Islam around Medina, from Juhayna, from Zayna, from different places. They made this army of 10,000 soldiers ready to attack whomever the Prophet ﷺ orders them to do. And if we compare this army to the army that went to Mecca on the truce of Hudaybiyah, how many were there?
1,400.
They were 1,400. And now they are 10,000. Which means that the period of 1 year and few months added value to the Muslims.
No.
So this truce indeed was a victory to Islam and to the Muslims. Because everyone was able to ask about Islam, debate, dialogue, and then accept Islam. So the number of Muslims grew rapidly to unbelievable proportions. And the Prophet ﷺ did not tell anyone of his heading. He just asked them to mobilize.
Can we say that the Meccan pilgrimage or the Umrah, which the Muslims went with the Prophet ﷺ when a year later of the agreement of Hudaybiyah, and making that pilgrimage in front of the other policies, was it like an advertisement or something for the non-Muslims to know about Islam, or was it like one of the reasons to know, for the others to learn about Islam and come and ask about it?
Unfortunately, it was not pilgrimage, it was Umrah. Had it been on the season of pilgrimage, then yes, because the season of pilgrimage, all polytheists come from all over Arabia to perform pilgrimage, but not on the Islamic principles, rather on the old principles of Abraham, peace be upon him, which was polluted and corrupted with idol worshipping. So, yes, it was form of advertising, but it was not as good as the messengers that the Prophet ﷺ sent to different regions of Arabia and outside of Arabia, calling people to Islam. The Prophet ﷺ did not tell his companions where he was headed until it was the D-Day. So they went out and he told them that we are going to besiege Mecca, the Holy Lands. One of the companions of the Prophet ﷺ, and his name was Hatib ibn Abi Balta'a. We've heard this name so many times, as he was the head of a number of expeditions, military expeditions, and he himself was a messenger of the Prophet ﷺ, calling people to Islam. He himself did something that would be considered nowadays as treason, and grand treason that should be punished by capital punishment. He did something that was very offensive, to the extent that Umar ibn Khattab, may Allah be pleased with him, requested the Prophet ﷺ to behead him. Though Hatib himself was one of the soldiers in the Battle of Badr. And we know that Allah Azza wa Jal had forgiven the sins of all of those who participated in Badr. Hatib, may Allah be pleased with him, did something. But Allah Azza wa Jal revealed to his messenger that thing. The Prophet ﷺ called Az-Zubayr ibn al-Awwam, his cousin, Ali ibn Abi Talib, his other cousin, and al-Miqdad, and told them, you have to ride immediately and go to a garden by the name of Khakh on the way to Mecca. There you will find a woman. She has a letter to the people of Mecca. Bring the letter and come back to me. So they went. And they found the woman exactly where the Prophet ﷺ had told them. And she was a very old woman, in her 60s. So they requested the letter from her. And she denied. I don't have anything. So again they repeated their request, please give us the letter. And she again said, I don't have anything. I don't know what you're talking about. Az-Zubayr ibn Awwam, may Allah be pleased with him, told her, listen, we did not say a lie, and we were not lied to. Our Prophet ﷺ told us that you have a letter. Now, you either give it to us, or we're going to strip you and search you. And once she saw determination in their eyes, she took the letter from her braids and gave it to them. They rode back to the Prophet ﷺ. And in his court, there was the companions of the Prophet ﷺ. There was Umar, and there was Hatib ibn Abi Balta'a. And the Prophet ﷺ showed the letter to Hatib. Now, the normal thing would be, is chop his head off. But again, the Prophet is teaching us, ﷺ, never do something and regret it later on. Ask. Try to investigate. And once you reach a verdict, then act according to the knowledge you have. So the Prophet ﷺ, may peace be and praise of Allah be upon him, fair and just, brought Hatib and told him, Hatib, what is this? So Hatib said, O Prophet of Allah, by Allah, I did not betray Allah and His Messenger. And I did not reject Islam. You know me. I'm a Muslim, I'm a believer, I'm your companion. And by Allah, I know that Allah will make you prevail and will grant you victory over the polytheist. But all your companions had their families, had their tribes in Mecca. So they all had people to go back to. I was the only one who, my family came from outside of Mecca. And we're not originally from Mecca. So I knew that you will be granted victory from Allah Azza wa Jal, and you will be victorious. So I wanted to score a point with the people of Mecca. I wanted to show them that I was there for their help and rescue, though it would not add any value to them. But this would help me in the future. Whenever they remember what I had done to them, they would hold it as a form of being grateful to me. So the Prophet ﷺ accepted his apology. Umar ibn Khattab, however, stood up as usual, being strong and firm in Islam, told him, O Prophet of Allah, he had committed an act of hypocrisy. He's a hypocrite. He's showing something different to what he intends in his heart. Allow me to kill him. So the Prophet ﷺ told him that, Umar, let him go. Didn't you know that Allah said that the people of Badr may do whatever they please because I have forgiven all of their sins? So the Prophet ﷺ approved the fact that this act was an act of treason. Yet it was forgiven because the intentions were accepted and because Allah Azza wa Jal had previously forgiven all the sins of those who participated in the battle of Badr. The Prophet ﷺ started moving his army to the people of Mecca to besiege them. They did not know about this. On the way, the Prophet ﷺ was met by Al-Abbas ibn Abdul Muttalib, his uncle, and the whole of his family and children. They all came embracing Islam to join the Muslims. Now, the story says that Abbas was a Muslim long ago. And some historians say that he was even a Muslim on the Battle of Badr. Muhammad, do you remember when Badr took place?
Yes, of course, I remember. And
which year?
Second year.
The second year, that's correct. So he came, but the truth is that he was not a Muslim then, because the Prophet ﷺ requested him to pay the ransom as all the prisoners of war from the people of Quraysh. I believe we have a short break. Stay tuned, and inshallah we will be right back.
According to the Quran, we live in a universe that worships Allah. It is not just human beings who celebrate His praises, but animals as well. Join us every Wednesday at 20 GMT for your show, Even Animals Glorified.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah, and welcome back. Among the dignitaries of Quraysh who came out to receive the Prophet ﷺ but accepting Islam, Abu Sufyan ibn al-Harith ibn Abdul Muttalib, the cousin of the Prophet ﷺ, and one who looked so much like the Prophet ﷺ that was strange, and one who was so close to the Prophet ﷺ throughout the first 40 years of his life, until he was revealed to, and then he became the most fierce enemy of the Prophet ﷺ, his cousin, and his buddy, his friend. And throughout all of these years, the 21 years, he was one of the fierce and strongest enemies of Islam and the Prophet ﷺ. He came out with the second cousin of the Prophet ﷺ, Abdullah ibn Umayyah, the brother-in-law, the brother of Salama, may Allah be pleased with her, the mother of the believers. They all came and accepted Islam. And subhanallah, they fought so bravely to protect Islam and the Muslims, to protect the Prophet ﷺ. Abu Sufyan himself did wonders on the Battle of Hunayn, standing alone with the Prophet ﷺ, facing the thousands of archers and soldiers and protecting the Prophet ﷺ with his own body. Transformation that is second to none. And this is not new. There are so many times that we know people, we see people that we think that they are in hell. They cannot by any chance accept Islam. And subhanallah, Allah Azza wa Jal opens a window of opportunity to them. He casts the light of faith in their hearts, and they are transformed in a matter of seconds. People who by no chance you ever thought that they would accept Islam. So this teaches us a very good lesson. Even after 21 years of personally attacking the Prophet ﷺ and undermining the efforts of Muslims, killing Muslims in the tens and hundreds whenever it was possible, even after this long period of time, never ever give up hope. The man accepted Islam. The man became one of the defenders of the Prophet ﷺ and of Islam. This teaches us a lesson. Don't give up on anyone. Keep on giving da'wah. Keep on introducing Islam to the non-Muslims, and always hope for the best.
I read a report for the Prophet ﷺ that one day he came to Abu Jahl's house and knocked at his door, and when Abu Jahl opened the door, he asked him, you are the most wise and you have big mind. Isn't the time for you to be a Muslim? And Abu Jahl replied, isn't the time for you to give up?
Well, I don't have any recollection of such a story, but I know that it was reported that the Prophet ﷺ once said that I have prayed to Allah to guide one of the two Umar. And it was Umar ibn Khattab that accepted Islam. The other one was Amr ibn Hisham, who is known as Abu Jahl. So this is possible. And I believe that 13 years in Mecca, the Prophet ﷺ must have visited each and every individual in Mecca, calling them for Islam. If he himself went to Taif, which is about 100 kilometers away or less from Mecca, on his feet, and he went there walking all that distance just to call the people to Islam. And when they assaulted him, when they had their slaves and children throw him with stones until his feet were bleeding, Allah Azza wa Jal sent Gabriel with the angel of the mountains. And he told him, the angel of the mountains, Muhammad, if you wish, Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, if you wish, I could collapse the two mountains over them and kill them all. Just give me the instruction. And he did not approve of that. He said, no, I pray to Allah that He might guide their sons to accept Islam. And this is exactly what took place. Allah Azza wa Jal did not guide them, He guided the sons. Ikrimah bin Abi Jahl, the son of Abu Jahl, was a strong believer and companion of the Prophet ﷺ. Safwan ibn Umayyah ibn Khalaf, he was also a strong companion and a believer of Islam. Muawiyah ibn Abi Sufyan, who was the brother-in-law of the Prophet ﷺ and also one of the companions that used to write the revelations and the Quran for the Prophet ﷺ.
The sword of Allah himself, Khalid ibn al-Walid.
Khalid ibn al-Walid ibn al-Mughira also himself was the son of, and he was one of the greatest enemies of Islam. This all teaches us that never despair, never give up hope. You yourself don't trust yourself that you might change a second a day, a month, a year later. And that is why we always ask Allah to strengthen our iman and to keep our hearts on the right path. Because you never know how your life would end. And at the same time, you never know how a non-Muslim's life would end. So always keep on thriving and trying to call others to Islam.
But is it too hard for us as Muslims these days to follow the same manner of the Prophet, may Allah be pleased with him? Like in such instant, the one which you, Sheikh, have just mentioned now about him, when Jibreel, may Allah be pleased with him, he's offering him to destroy the people which they have just insulted him and abused him physically and everything. And then he shows his mercy, and he, instead of accepting that offer and punish them and showing them that no, he's strong, he's in the strong side, he offered them the mercy and made prayer for him, for them. So do you believe that we could reach that level of mercy?
Well, whether we could reach it or not, this is an issue that needs to be studied, because the Prophet ﷺ was a human. And Allah Azza wa Jal, if He wanted us to follow something that cannot be followed, He would have sent to us angels. But He didn't. He sent a human being from amongst us, who talks like us, who lives like us, and who is a normal human being. But He was the perfect human being. And if you follow His footsteps, you will eventually be as close and as perfect to Him as possible. The Prophet ﷺ did something that is very difficult for us to do. And that is to forgive and to pardon those who had assaulted you and did bad things to you. Having said that, the Prophet ﷺ was once approached by a companion, and he told him, "O Prophet of Allah, advise me." What was the Prophet's advice?
Don't be angry.
Do not be angry. So the man said, "Well, okay, this is a good advice. Give me more." The Prophet kept on repeating, ﷺ, "Do not get angry. Don't be angry." Which means that it is part of Islam not to do something out of haste and then regret it because of anger. It's normal. Everybody, you have to be angry. If you're not angry, you're not a man. But what you're denied from doing is on acting according to your anger or out of rage. This is not permissible. And if you look at the seerah of the Prophet ﷺ, which we are studying, you would find tolerance to the maximum, to the extent that in one narration, a man, a nomad from the Bedouins, came to the Prophet ﷺ, as narrated by Anas, may Allah be pleased with him. He said that the Prophet was once wearing a jacket that was made of hard wool. And a man came from behind the Prophet ﷺ, and he pulled him so hard from his clothes that it affected his neck and back. You can see the redness and the scratches of that wool jacket. And adding to that, he said, "Muhammad," calling him by his first name, "Muhammad, give me from the money that you have, because it's Allah's money, it's not yours." Now, I cannot imagine me being in the Prophet ﷺ's shoes at that moment, being startled by someone from behind, and being assaulted in a sense, because it affected your body, it harmed him, it hurted him, ﷺ. And also talking to him in this manner, "Muhammad, and I am the man, I am the head of all of Arabia."
Was it the people were around him that time, his companions, or was he by himself?
He was along with Anas, may Allah be pleased with him. So the Prophet ﷺ did not do anything more than looking at the man, giving him a nice and gentle smile, and instructing his companions to give him money. But what kind of tolerance is this? The Prophet ﷺ was always setting the best examples to his people in generosity, in bravery, in kindness, in tolerance, in mercy, in being kind to his wives. The Prophet told us, the best among you are those who are best to their wives. All of these are not simply stories to be told or to be, discussed as form of stories. These are the fundamentals of our religion. You cannot be a Muslim, you cannot be a practicing Muslim without going through these stories and applying them, implementing them in your lives. Otherwise, you're just a hypocrite, saying something and doing something that's completely contradictory to it, or not even believing in it. The Prophet ﷺ always set the best example for us to follow. And wallahi, by Allah, if we follow his footsteps in everything, not only in the way we look, but even in the way we feel and love and tolerate, and the compassion that he had to the people, if we have this, everybody among us and around us would accept Islam, and at least would value the principles that Islam calls for. I believe this is all the time we have for today's program. Until we meet next time, fi amanillah, wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Mm-hmm.